And with that, I'd like to introduce Chief Tamika Nelson of the San Diego County Probation Department. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Mac. I appreciate you having me here today.
Yes, we're really, really happy that you've been able to make some time in what I know is a really busy schedule just to have this conversation with us. So where we will start is tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to the position you currently hold.
Oh, a little bit about me. I've been in the probation field for approximately 20, a little bit over 23 years. How I got to the position where I'm at is, I guess my own unique journey. I am currently the Chief Probation Officer for San Diego County Probation Department. I did not grow up in San Diego County probation, nor did I grow up in San Diego County. I actually come to San Diego County by way of San Joaquin County, which is a county in Northern California or Central Valley of California. A small town, but to me, it was a pretty big town, Stockton, California, about 45 minutes south of Sacramento, the state capital. So, going to school. I went to UC San Diego, so there's my connection to San Diego. And I never wanted to leave San Diego. Once you've visited San Diego, you're like, there is no other place to go. There is no other place to be. Location, location, location is everything. And so I would just say it's part of my vision board and getting back to living in San Diego, the city of San Diego. How I got involved in probation, actually is via my mother. My mother, she was a nurse at a juvenile detention facility in San Joaquin County. She was also a nurse at a jail and a nurse at a private hospital. And so, she said, hey, there's a job opportunity as a group counselor at a juvenile detention facility. You should apply, a little bit before my graduation to try to get on because she knew about the background process. And I just said, okay. I was going to law school at the time. And when the job came open, it also fit my schedule. So I was able to attend law school and also work as a group counselor for the detention facility. And going to law school, it was my full intention to become an attorney and work in family law, actually, once I, graduated from law school. But probably because of my experience in working in juvenile detention and eventually promoting over and working in the probation department, I was able to see how I could apply all the same skills and what I wanted to do in connecting families and looking at family reunification and how does that go and best interests of children. How do you apply some of those same principles that I was learning in law school that I could do all of those things plus more in the field of probation? And so I ended up staying with the probation department, working several and various different units and whatnot. And just throughout the years, using what I learned, skills, learning from others, and working with our community, just ended up promoting and whatnot. And then eventually this opportunity came up in San Diego County. And you know I, I don't want people to believe that, oh, it's just like, oh yeah, that's just a natural progression. I'm like, oh, why would they want someone from a smaller county, definitely a small town compared to San Diego County? And then the question I had to ask myself was, why should I go for it? Or rather, the question is, why not go for it? How are you not prepared for this position? So I ended up going for it, and here I am.
You actually answered another question that I was going to ask in terms of when the opportunity came, what your thought process was in applying for it. But you just spoke to that. It was, how would I not go for it? And I'm going to hear in that you already had a vision and an idea of what you wanted to do as chief. Am I right?
And I did, and I think a lot of us, you know, a case in point, I know I stuck my foot in my mouth during my interview, but yet I'm still here. Being the first woman chief in San Diego County. Actually, during my interview, and talking about, hey, who's still saying first in 2022 at the time or 2021 at the time? I had no idea that there had not been a female chief here in San Diego County. So thank goodness my panel didn't hold it against me. But just those things, like looking at the person that I am, and how I grew up and my experiences, and looking at, we often hear lived experience through the work that we do with our stakeholders and community, and clients, our youth. And I was like, well, what makes me not have some of those lived experiences, and how I grew up, and the community I'm from, and how does that relate to the community where I'm moving to, and becoming a part of? How does that relate, and how does that help? And so in weighing that in my decision to go forward, the only thing that was going to stand in my way from this opportunity here was myself.
Mhm.
And when those doors open, it is incumbent upon you to walk through those doors, and not stand in your own way. And I was the only one standing in my way at that point and saying, no, no, no. But all the other doors were opening up and saying, walk through the door, walk through the door, walk through the door. So I decided to get out of my own way. And here I am.
I think that's a wonderful message for your staff in terms
Mm.
of modeling leadership and modeling walk through the door. Always be looking at that perspective. I really appreciate that. So tell us about your agency. Tell us about San Diego County Probation Department now. What are you doing? What are highlight it for us? Tell us what's going on.
Well, I apologize to my poor staff, but we're doing a lot of amazing things. And I only apologize to them. It's a little bit in jest because I know they're working hard. We're doing some amazing things in here, and I couldn't be prouder of everyone who works for San Diego County Probation. We've done some major undertakings, as far as, transitioning around youth justice, and looking at how we approach um, engaging with our youth and engaging with our families, and looking at a positive youth justice model, youth in custody practice model, but also looking at how we do that along the continuum. So it's not only looking at youth when they're in custody, we're looking at along the way. So we want to know everything from research to engagement to really evaluating ourselves to say what is working and what is not, what is proven to be effective. And it goes beyond what we call evidence informed or evidence based services. And so what we're really looking at is, yeah, we have youth in our custody, we have adults who come in custody, but what are we doing to help, and how did they get here? And if we can answer the question on how someone got here, maybe we can also prevent others from coming into the system. That'll probably lead into another question, but that is basically the foundation of community supervision. And this past weekend, I happened to visit the Civil Rights Museum in Georgia. And it just really brought me back to a foundation of why I kind of chose the profession. Like, what does it mean? And so when you look at that, we are really trying to engage um, our clients, our youth and young adults, and say, how can you become, productive members of society? Yes, you have a past. Yes, you've done something, but we're not here to judge. We're here to help you along, because ultimately, you're part of our community. This is not mutually exclusive. We are here, um, until you're ready to make those changes. We're always here. We're going to be there when you get out of custody. We're there when you're in custody, depending on the situation. And we're that person that's there to cheer. Are you ready to make that change? How can we help you? Let us show you a different way. Is what you're doing working? Let us help you get back into the community. And so I'm just kind of excited about that. And one thing we did for our staff is trying to eliminate silos and looking at our staff as one or the other. At a time a couple of years ago, it was really talks about separating our department out, from adult and juveniles, and you don't treat them the same. And if we really think about it, we all started off as kids at one time, and you really can't separate kids and adults as far as how you treat them. And because we all grow up and or our youth have parents. So you have to work with the family. I just don't work with the youth and say, okay, you need to do that. Then I'm shouldering youth with responsibilities. It may be adult responsibilities, or ways that people that are supporting them and how they care for them and how they support them and how they keep them in our community. So it's really a holistic approach in what we're doing here. With me coming here and evaluating, it was just to try to look at how are we doing that and how can we enhance that. So we recently, last year, went down to one classification. We took correctional out of our name because we're not here to correct, we're here to help people. And so we're all, probation officers for our sworn staff, and then we still have our professional staff. Um, and it's all about support and community. How not only are we helping those in our community and our clients, but helping one another. How do we engage? We're working on staff engagement and creating healthier and addressing mental wellness with our staff, because we know if you have healthy people working for you, people who are not surviving but thriving, they are engaged. Guess what? They in turn pass that on to the people that they serve. And so we're really looking at it as a holistic approach here in San Diego County. We're a part of a bunch of initiatives trying to work on things like ending girls' incarceration. Um, Recently partnered with NIC on a coaching model to help enhance and build upon the work that we've already done. During your time here, you created the Community Transition Center. We're happy to say that that's still up and running now 11 years later and served over 19,000 clients and transitioned them successfully into the community. We truly believe that reentry begins at the point of entry. Now, if we can do anything to support people from coming into the system, we will. It doesn't negate our responsibilities on accountability or opportunity. It just helps further support that. And we're just continue to build upon that.
That's wonderful. And I want to tell you, I love your use of the word engagement. And even in work that I still do today around the justice system and probation specifically, many times I will replace the word supervision with engagement. And in the way that you have described the emphasis on engagement, I really do think that's fully consistent with what we're about today. So, and part of what you said does segue into my next question, and you've touched on it a little bit, so I'm going to give you this opportunity to expand on it. But talk now about the role of community supervision in the criminal justice system in 2024. Talk about its role.
I've always said, and like probation is the parent of the criminal justice system, and maybe because of what you said, Mac, is that engagement piece. You know, what I've seen over not just in 2024, but I'm sure we've all noticed it, is a shift, let's say on the law enforcement side, how now they're shifting to, wanting to engage more, develop relationships more versus what, traditional law enforcement, they have that one contact, it's one and done, and it moves on. Well, probation has never been that and will never be that. And so it is about 2024, it is about engagement. It's about collaboration in a way that we've never seen before. And guess what? It'll continue to grow because, with the advancements of technologies and whatnot, we're looking at ways of how do we engage with our communities. Never have any of us before dealt with the pandemic. So how do we engage with our community in a different type of way? I heard people say, oh, we got to return to normal or go back. There is no going back because we have shifted culturally and historically just by the world experiencing this pandemic. So then it's like, okay, now how do we engage moving here? How do we shift dealing with people while we're dealing with our own thing? We're all going through something at the same time. Whereas it before, to me, it had to be we're at arm's length and we're um it almost felt like you had to have no feelings whatsoever and be very arm's length, very robotic. And that's not the case anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is really about embracing the relationships we develop with our community and looking at that and working one with our community, working with those with lived experience, whether that's you as a staff member or a client or youth or young adult. You really are seeing a transformation unlike you've ever seen before, only because we all went through something at the same time.
Mhm.
And it's just a matter of how, at levels, we experienced it, and levels and how it impacted us, and levels of how we dealt with that. So addressing everything from, solitude and isolation to, here we are doing a podcast via Zoom versus in person, and it has nothing, it's just I couldn't drive down the road
I understand.
to
Yeah,
see.
yeah,
But
true.
but
Yeah.
it's those things, it's not so black and white. And for those of us who've worked in juvenile before, we always understood the gray because you're working with so many parties. So it's just now everybody has to work within the gray and say what gets us to the goal. How do we look at success? How do we get there? And we get there together. Now, everybody doesn't get what they want. No delusions about that. But I think we're more engaged, and not just speaking probation, but as a society engaged in how do we get to solutions together that are for the betterment of everyone.
Okay, now given that, I'm going to get even more specific with you. So,
Mhm,
talk about the role of a probation officer in terms of what do they do? What are their duties? And I appreciate that what you said, you've taken the correctional part out of those that work inside. So they're no longer CDPOs, they're just POs or DPOs, as it were.
mhm,
But talk about
mhm.
what that job is. And you can, at this point, you might be speaking to some prospective folks who want to become probation officers as much as you're speaking to your own staff. So tell us in your view, what is that role about? What do they do?
I would like to say that it's simple, and it's not. It's very complex. It's because you're working with people. Um, our staff, they inspire hope and hope and belief, and that's um, at the most simplest form that I can put it. I don't want to talk, oh, checklist, they make sure safety and security and things like that. It's way beyond that. It's in you, staff and people who work in this profession inspire hope and belief because they ultimately believe people can change. They believe people deserve second chances. They don't believe one moment in time defines a person for a lifetime. And they can believe that just because being, altruistic, I just believe that. Or no, they know that from their own experience, like, but for, you know, Mac Jenkins giving me a chance that time I messed up, would I be here? Somebody afforded them an opportunity to make a change. They didn't hold it against them for their lifetime for a mistake that they made, a bad decision, something non-detrimental or whatnot. They didn't hold it against the person. So that's what at the core um, officers do. People who work in probation do. in belief, they believe in a purpose that is, to me, bigger than themselves. You cannot work in this profession and not think of a purpose bigger than yourself, because it's in the title, community supervision.
Right.
If you don't believe in community, we talk about community engagement. If you don't believe in community, this job is not for you. If you
Mm.
think community should be locked up all the time, it's really not for you. Especially in California, that's just not going to happen. People get out of jail, people get out of prison. um you know Mental health is a big thing. Substance use and abuse and disorders is a big thing. And how can we treat people? How can we get them to help? And so that's why I say it's not as simple as that. At its most basic, you have to believe in hope. You have to believe in change. And if that is you, this is the type of career you can get in. And that's not being, I don't want people to think of being naive or positive all the time, but you really, things happen. We might have a bad day or a bad moment, but we have to put that in perspective. It was a bad moment. You didn't have a bad life. You know, you, uh, we could say it, for example, oh gosh, I got up late this morning. I missed my alarm clock and now I'm late for this meeting. Oh my God, my day sucks. No, I had a bad moment. Let me take perspective and breathe on it. And now, how do I figure out how to get my day back on track and go on? That being late didn't ruin my life, kind of thing. So it's like putting things in perspective. And that's what officers and staff who work in this profession do. They inspire hope, they inspire change, and they believe people deserve second chances, because I guarantee someone in your life has given you one.
Absolutely. Chief, have you ever heard of the term Amen Corner?
Amen corner. No, I have not.
Amen. Oh, it's just like in church that there's a people in the church congregation always say amen when the preacher
Oh
speaks.
yeah.
Go to that. See, I'm going to be your amen corner right now, especially when you talk about probation officers needing to appreciate that they're about a bigger purpose. There's something bigger that they're involved in. I really, really tried to value that and emphasize that myself, but I just really loved hearing you say that in the context in which you put it. So I'm your amen corner right now. So that's what that.
Okay.
Okay, now talk about criminal justice reform from a community supervision standpoint. What does that mean to you? Criminal justice reform from a community supervision standpoint. And even before you answer, it's a popular term right now. And I believe that a lot of people, when they hear it, they think about prison reform. They might even think about law enforcement reform. But community supervision is always an afterthought, or often an afterthought. So talk about criminal justice reform from a community supervision standpoint.
Um, you know, I think you brought up a good point there. When I think with anything, when you hear the term reform, you do think of it, law enforcement and what's going on, which it can be, especially people who work in this field, who what I would say are sometimes caught in the middle. Um, it can be daunting and exhaustive because like, oh, reform, 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 and you're trying to figure out, well, what is the meaning and the underlying, I guess, uh, well, I'll just say meaning, to the word reform. What are we trying to accomplish? So when we look at that in the context of community supervision, and I look at reform, I don't view it. Again, it goes back to perspective as, oh, we need to change and this is what's wrong. It's like, no, if we remove the word reform, all we're looking at is how do we improve, evolve, um, change. It's the same that we do for our clients and youth and whomever that we work with. If we were still doing the same kind of thing as far as community supervision from the 1950s, none of us would be here.
Right.
We have to change with the times. So when people think of community supervision reform, it is about looking at what one, what works and what is relevant to the times. We talked about, or I just took a training regarding, generational diversity and all the different levels of generations, one in the workplace, and that are currently living right now. So, I'm at the basic form, let's say, you know, prior, I could give someone conditions of probation on a piece of paper, and now I don't want to date myself, but on a triplicate form or carbon form, you get the pink copy, you get the green copy, and I get the yellow copy, and the original goes to the court and all that kind of stuff.
Mm,
And now, we live in an age it's digital, like, nah, just sign here on this screen, and I'll send it to you in a Dropbox, or you have a link to access this and you can sign here. All of those things have shifted, and that's just as a with technology, and seeing that, and things that we know that, oh, and this worked in 1920. Well, it doesn't work in 2024.
mhm.
And so, like, we're not going back to then, because we saw what worked, what didn't work, and we constantly evolve. So when people hear the word reform, I would like them to look at that perspective. Is what was working 20 years ago, 10 years ago, does it still serve a purpose for the goals we're trying to meet now? If the answer is no, then that's when you come together to figure out, okay, what is going to serve our purpose now and into the future? And as a chief, it's really incumbent upon us. If you're a leader in your organization, is if you're thinking about what you need to address the now, you're really thinking too late. You should be thinking 5 to 10 years down the road, like what's coming down the road. Now, none of us can predict the future. Otherwise, me and Mac would have been hit the lotto by now and been doing something else. But
That's
you can
true.
look at you can look at your data, and you can look at not trends, because they only last so long, but look at your longitudinal data around your county, your area, even and throughout the nation, and do some comparisons and say, where are we going to be as an industry 5 to 10 years from now? Has the foundation of community supervision changed since probation was thought of? I I don't think it has. It was still about community supervision. The things that's changed is how we do community supervision. That changes, but the foundation of what probation has never changed. It is to do community supervision as an arm of the court. That has not changed since probation began 100 plus years ago. Um, but how we do it has change. And that is what we have to stay mindful of.
You get another amen from me on that one. Okay, so now, Chief, I've been giving you softballs. I've been giving
You
you,
gonna give me a softball?
no, I said I've been giving you softball pitches, easy
Oh
one.
no, keep up the softball.
No, no, now you get a hard one. You get a hard one now. You ready for this hard one?
No, we have a bad connection. I'm sorry.
No, here it is. Chief Nelson, talk about
Yes.
AI. Talk about AI and its impact or application on probation, community supervision, criminal justice, however you want to respond to that. Tell us, tell us what you think about AI and probation.
I have two reactions to AI. One, I'm really excited about it. And then the second one is like, oh my gosh, Terminator movie is coming to life. We should have paid attention. We should have paid attention. But, I'm excited about it. And the fear behind AI, I think, comes with not understanding it. Um, if we really think about it, AI, quote unquote, the different levels to it has been here for a while. We had to see this natural progression from when if I think about it, during my time, there was no growing up as a kid, there was no Google. There was, you go to the library, me and my best friend tease each other because we're like, oh, remember microfiche and laser feeds and all this stuff. Remember that? And go into the library and you have to look up something and the index cards to go find a book to look up something. And now it's in the dictionary, Google it. That is a term. To Google something means to look it up on the internet and whatnot.
That,
So then you move into that. Then you move into, I don't want to say the name, but SIRI. And then comes on, it says, how can I help you? Alexa, same thing. All of these technologies were leaning towards that way. I'm excited for it. Of course, I think we are behind the ball because it's here.
right.
What can it do? We need to figure out how we can leverage AI in a positive manner that works for us. And I know there's some fear. The actor strike and what we saw, like, hey, you can't use an AI image of me to replace me on the screen or to recreate my voice and things like that. Those are some of the scary things. We have to realize the same with people. I always tell people be careful in judgment because you could have easily been the other side of that coin. It's the same with AI. There's a positive side to that, and there's a negative side. It is incumbent upon us, one, to learn about it, tap into those who understand it, and then leverage those positive things to help us move our profession, to support our profession, not to replace our profession. Of course, things that we worry about or things I already know out there, like writing pre-sentence reports. And, if you put it in there, it could pretty much come close to what a pre-sentence report is about. But we have to remember that technology is still created by humans.
Mhm.
And so it cannot be used to replace us because we still have to have that independent thought of what needs to go in there and to tell someone's story enough to inform the court on what should happen with that individual. And we have to be that person that is still unbiased to provide that type of information to the court. For anyone who has social media and stuff, and I don't know if they figured it out, and I continue to be, if there's any AI webinars out there, I'm on it and listening and engage with our local through CPOC, PITMA, our IT Managers Association, and just talking to them about it and just research on my own time. But just being cognizant of when social media, they say the algorithms. If you keep looking up cute dog videos, guess what your social media is going to show you? Cute dog videos. Or as some of us have seen, even myself, like, oh, I mentioned, oh, I need to go get some bleach this afternoon. Didn't look it up or nothing. And then all of a sudden you see an ad for bleach coming up on something. And it could be a coincidence or it could be not. Just getting to know you. I think they call it data mining. I don't know. But getting to know you and then purposely pushing that information to you. Those are the things we need to be careful of in leveraging it. That's why I don't think it can replace those more complex things. Simple things, yes, it could help to alleviate some of those things. But some of the more complex things that we do, relationship building, that engagement. I can't send something AI out into the community to engage with my community, but can I leverage it for reminders to go to your court date? Sure, why not? Um, can it be used to supplement possibly some cognitive behavioral work that you've done with either your therapist or your officer to say, hey, here's some more work, here's some scenarios, work through this with AI, kind of like a Sims situation where they keep going through scenarios and depending on what you choose, it changes the answer to help you critically think through a situation. Can we use it for training? Absolutely. We use it without either intentionally use it or just by way of what we get through our products every day through your Samsungs, iPhones, computers, we use it unintentionally. Some things are like, oh no, you have to use this technology now. So it's just a matter of us figuring out how we need to use it. I do know, for instance, we do need to catch up again behind the times because it's not a matter of when, it's already here. Now figuring out how do we leverage it for our advantage.
Thank you. That's really a comprehensive response. You touched on quite a few things that actually I was hoping that you would. That's helpful. Now, I only really have one question left for you. All right. But I actually may combine a couple of things. And in this question, I want you to answer your own because you
Okay.
talked about we're looking forward as leaders, as you said, must look forward. So the question is, where is community supervision 10 years from now? And you might consider in that response, what are the challenges facing us? So it's kind of a combined question. What are the challenges ahead? And where is community supervision 10 years from now?
Well, let me see. I try not to answer what the challenges are, but I'll just say with anything. For me, the challenges are gonna be, I, I don't know. Let me get back to challenges because I don't want to answer with challenges first.
Okay.
But I guess maybe us being more out front as leaders in this space. We have worked in the field, 20 plus years and whatnot. And some people may believe, oh, you're very limited in your view. And I would say, no, we're not. We engage with one another, working with people within your state, talking with local leaders, talking with leaders from other states, nationally, internationally. Like, what does community supervision look like in your area? And how do we leverage those strengths and fit them in our specific locations? When I was thinking about the challenges, it depends because everybody has a boss. And so when I think of challenges, it's trying to educate whoever your boss is, if it's, a board of supervisors, a presiding judge, CAO, whomever that is in your field. How do you educate and get them involved so that they understand the shift in where community supervision is going? Where do I see it? I see, I guess, more leaning on the treatment side, and treatment and education. I, and that could be I will asterisk that with, that could be my own bias.
Hmm.
I do believe in educating children. And so with that, I used to be an avid reader for personal reasons. Now all I read is legislation and laws and things like that, and it can go blinding, ergo why I'm wearing glasses now. But um, if you empower people with education, they can begin to advocate on their own behalf and understand their choices and understand their opportunities. I think my staff have asked me, is there a time I envision that there's no crime? The only way there's not going to be crime is they say all the laws, no, we're
Right.
okay.
I agree.
Everything, there's not in my lifetime will there be where there's no crime. But I do see us looking at ways, I think possibly getting involved earlier, at helping to inform on what has led to people becoming involved into the system. So that's where I am envision community supervision is basically using all that we've done, looking at the work that we do with our clients, how we engage with our community, how we engage with stakeholders, and looking that through a research lens and saying, this is how people get involved in these systems, whether that is the criminal justice system, the child welfare system. And these are the things we can put in place to prevent people from coming in so that it is only those who need the highest treatment. And, we were talking about coaching earlier, but the most coaching in order to remain in the community. And I think that's where it's going to be in 10 years. To me, there's a slight distinction because people are like, oh, that's what we do now. I do not think we do that now to such a grand scale. I really think it will be at least nationally impactful when we're starting to be in those rooms where we're saying we have seen through youth and adults that we have supervised and engaged with and built these relationships with. Here is where the breakdowns occurred on their road into into the justice system. And if we would have engaged at 3, with maybe Head Start supports, if we would have engaged at 5 at ensuring that, the incentivizing families to stay together, if we would have engaged um, when they were in school, realizing they needed tutoring rather than a suspension because they were having struggling reading. Here's all of these pinpoints along this road that where we could have engaged, and not necessarily community supervision, but
Mhm.
as a community, if we would have engaged then, they would have got off the highway and their trajectory would have changed. And I think that's where we need to go in the next 5 to 10 years, is really studying our population. We tend to look at what we have, and that's all systems. Oh, I'm responsible to reduce recidivism. Oh, I'm responsible to ensure foster care placements. Oh, I'm responsible for this. But no, we need to look at it as a whole. How do people get in our systems and not only emphasize the individual, but realize that individual is surrounded by a community, and look at what is happening in our communities to say, how can I help my community so no other person comes in here, um, for that doesn't absolutely need the help. I'm a true believer that people shouldn't have to get worse to get the help that they need.
Mm.
So if we can get there in the next 5 to 10 years, or certainly during my lifetime, I would be very happy.
Well, Chief Tamika Nelson, let me say a couple of things. With
Yes,
you
sir.
and with you in leadership, that will help. I believe this. I'm not just trying to make you feel good. I believe that the field has an advocate, has a practitioner that can help the field get to where you just described. And I mean that in all sincerity. And I want to thank you, one, for the generosity of your time right now, but also for the generosity of your knowledge. Uh, I would say that from this conversation, your presentation is that of a passionate, inspired leader. And so I want to compliment you for that and just wish you all the best in your future. You know, I'm in your corner. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
All right. So thank you again for your time. And with that, we are at the end of the interview.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time or even considering me. So I do thank you, and I do thank you for all your support from the beginning, and and knowing your reputation, because I heard nothing but good things about you from past chiefs, and even a mentor of mine from back in the day. and and when you say that, I know it's genuine and not for purposes of this. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
I mean, thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.